Hello and welcome back. As you can see, I've created a couple of paragraphs which we're going to use in this lesson. The first thing we're going to do is put a border around them, and then we'll create some space between the border and the actual text using what's called padding. And then finally we'll play around with the height and width of the paragraphs. So to get started, let's set the border up. We can set it one of two ways. We can set individual border properties like this. So for instance, I can say border color is red, border style. As soon as I hit colon, you'll see it offers us a number of options here, dash, dotted, double, and so on. By far the most common is solid. And you can see as soon as I've selected that, a red border has appeared. And we can control its width as well. So I can say border width 4 pixels. And we can see it's now a little thicker. But these three values are used together so frequently that you can specify them all on one line. So I can say border colon 4 pixels solid red like this, and that is the same as these three properties individually specified, so I can get rid of them. We can also make the corners of the border rounded, so I just say border radius and specify the size of the rounding. So let me say 20 pixels, and you can see there's a nice curved border here. But at present there's no space between the text and the border, and so the text is actually overlapping with the curved border. But we can fix that by setting some padding. So if I say padding 20 pixels, then we've now created a space of 20 pixels between the border and the text all the way around on the top, bottom, left and right. And these can be specified individually. So for instance, I can say padding colon 10 pixels at the top, and then we sort of work our way around clockwise. So 20 pixels would be on the right, 40 pixels at the bottom, and then 80 pixels on the left. So you can see here we've got 10, 20 over here, 40 down here, and then 80 over here. Not so common to have 4 different values, but what is common is to set the horizontal and vertical amounts independently. So for instance, I can say padding 10 pixels, 50 pixels. And what that means is 10 pixels at the top and bottom and 50 on the left and right. So for now, I'm just going to bring back 20 pixels all the way around. And as promised, we'll have a quick look at the height and the width. Now, the height and the width have default values of what's called auto. So let me just put these in. You'll see no change when I specify these. As I say, these are the defaults anyway. So if I say auto, no change. And what auto means is control the width and the height to ensure that the width is the entire width of the containing window and the height is sufficient to contain all the text. So as I make the containing window narrow, you'll see that the width is set to the width of the containing window and the height is altered to ensure that all the text is contained within the paragraph. But we can override these. So for instance, I can say height is 2000 pixels and it'll respect that. So you can see the red border is the size of the actual paragraph. And there's the second one. Obviously it's put a scroll bar in so we can view everything. And similarly, I change this to something really small like 100 pixels. Well, in fact, that was the original size, so let's make it even smaller than that. So if I say 50 pixels, then it's respected the request for the paragraph to be 50 pixels, which is from this red border at the top to this red border at the bottom. But unfortunately, there's too much text, so it's allowed the text to overflow outside of the paragraph, and it's actually started to run into the following paragraph. And we can stop that happening using a property called overflow. So if I say overflow hidden, then it won't let the content leak outside of the border or even into the border for that matter. So for now, I'm going to set height back to auto, and I'll get rid of this overflow since we're not going to need it. And we'll see it's a similar situation with the width. So for instance, I can say the width is 2000 pixels and it will respect that, and it's create a scroll bar in order we can see it. But there we are, it's 2000 wide. And similarly, we can make it quite narrow. If I say 400 pixels, and the height is auto, so of course that's still doing its job and scaling, and we can take that quite a long way. If I say the width is 100, then it'll still scale the height and put scroll bars in. So that's width and height. We'll come back to this in the next lesson where we're going to look at margin, but for now I will close this lesson and I'll see you in the next.